The Azerbaijan Grand Prix was another crushing display by Red Bull in 2023, easing to a third 1-2 of the season, with Sergio Perez taking the win ahead of Max Verstappen to add to his sprint victory on Saturday. Aside from a strategy error from Vestappen's side of the garage, the Red Bulls appeared to have raced flawlessly, with the two RB19s smashing the competition on race pace. But it was a development that few spotted while the cars were winding through Baku's streets that has Chief Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko concerned about their chances later this season. So what exactly is Marko so nervous about? And should Red Bull fans be worried? Let's take a look. Despite Perez finishing 24 seconds ahead of third place Leclerc and the fastest lap only going to George Russell due to Mercedes driver putting on fresh soft tyres for a final lap shootout, Marko has pointed to Ferrari and Aston Martin's performance during the race's final laps as a warning to the team. A 1-2 and a first and third place in the sprint, we are very satisfied with that, he explained to ORF. Max was unlucky with the safety car and didn't manage to find a good setup, which cost him a lot of time, so he couldn't get the most out of the car and keep up with Perez. A big compliment to Checo, he was fast from the start and made no mistake, it was a brilliant race. But what was alarming for us was that Leclerc as well as Alonso managed to clock the same lap times as us in the last 6 to 8 laps. We had to work hard to make sure nothing happened at the end of the race. We weren't telling the drivers to slow down and manage the car. Sergio did ask if that was possible, but we let them drive flat out. Marko's comments may be bewildering to some, especially given the dominance displayed by the two Red Bull drivers during the race, but the data backs up his claim. Lorenzo Terranova created a fantastic graphic for F1 in general to demonstrate. The first 38 or so laps show that Perez and Vestappen are clearly ahead of the field. In fact, with the exception of a couple of laps, it isn't even close, with the Red Bull duo running lap times on average faster than 1 second compared to their competitors. But as the race came to a close, something interesting happened in the final 12 laps. From lap 37 to 39, both Alonso and Leclerc increased their pace in comparison to the Red Bulls. From then on, Alonso had the advantage for the majority of the laps, with Vestappen nipping ahead on laps 46, 48 and the final lap. As Marko said, both of the drivers were told to push, not only to keep the gap as big as possible for a suitable cushion, but also because they were fighting for the bonus point for fastest time. That means it's unlikely that Perez and Vestappen intentionally slowed down, which begs the question of how Alonso and Leclerc got so much faster in the final laps. The tyres are the most obvious thing to point out. It's easy to see that, while the Red Bulls have proven to be quite adept at managing their tyres, their overall speed is so high that it demands a little more from the rubber. Other factors pertaining to tyres, particularly on Verstappen's side, will be evident later in the video, so stick to the end to get the full picture. Alonso might also have been working hard to catch Leclerc for the podium spot, and Leclerc in turn would have wanted to extend that gap, so those two drivers might have had a little more motivation to push closer to the limit. Then there's the matter of fuel. It's possible that with lower fuel loads, the Red Bull car, which is already aimed at a more oversteery balance, becomes more difficult to work with as the weight leaves and the load on the rear tyres decreases. The inverse may also be true, with Ferrari and Aston Martin vehicles favouring a lower fuel load. Another interesting fact revealed by the lap times is that the fastest Mercedes in Baku was slower than both Ferraris. This demonstrates that the folks at Maranello are likely beginning to extract more potential from the SF23 while waiting for the updates slated to arrive with the Miami Grand Prix. While the pace in the final laps of the Grand Prix may have piqued the interest of some in the paddock, the more visible area where Red Bull faltered in Baku was Verstappen's strategy, with the Dutchman requesting a review of the pit stop decision. So, while we still have Red Bull on our minds, let's go ahead and take a look. Verstappen's countryman Nick de Vries clipped the inside wall at turn 6 on the 10th lap, which broke the front left suspension on his AlphaTauri and left him stranded on what little runoff was available at the next corner. At the end of that lap, Red Bull chose to pit Vestappen, but as he was leaving the pits, the safety car appeared to allow marshals to clear de Vries' car. This prompted Verstappen's competitors to respond, and with a less costly pit stop due to the lower running speeds, Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc were able to pull ahead of him. Verstappen was able to pass Leclerc on the restart, but felt that the mistimed pit stop had harmed his race and that the team should investigate. "I saw that there was a car stopped. I thought he maybe just locked up," Verstappen said. "In hindsight, I can't see that, but it's something to review. Clearly you could see there was one wheel damaged and it looked like he was not going to drive that anyway back to the pits, even if he would have reversed. So something to look at, because of course that then did hurt my race after that. You see it on the screen, but you cannot look into detail if the wheel is connected to the car properly. Of course the team has a bit more overview to that, but like I said, we'll look into that if there was anything we could have done different. I also don't know when the exact call came to pit, so it's a bit difficult to say at the moment." Verstappen explained that he tried to push at the restart to close the gap on Perez and get within DRS range, but he used up too much tyre life in the process. He then decided to take a step back and manage his tyres, especially since he was struggling with balance on his Red Bull RB19. As you may recall, we discussed both of these issues in the previous segment. Naturally, questions were raised as to why Red Bull would pit Verstappen knowing there was a stationary car on track, especially on Baku's narrow street circuit, where safety car interventions are frequent. Since then, Red Bull boss Christian Horner has elaborated on their thinking at the time, offering some rebuttal to the criticisms. "At the time, we decided to pit Max because he was starting to struggle a little bit with the rears of his car, and Checo was obviously right up behind him. So we decided from a strategy point of view, it was the optimum time to take the stop." In the brief snapshot available of De Vries's stationary car, Red Bull hadn't spotted that the AlphaTauri suffered terminal damage because the Dutchman had clipped the inside turn 5 wall and bent his front left corner. "From the glimpse that we got, all 4 wheels were on the car. It hadn't hit the barrier and the engine was running," Horner added. "It looked like he'd select reverse and carry on, so you'd never expect that to go to a safety car. Usually, if you see a car in the barriers, here it's a safety car, but there was no sign of it. It was only subsequently on the replays that you were able to see his track rod was broken." Despite this, Verstappen appeared calm after the race, hugging and shaking hands with Perez to congratulate him on his win. Reflecting on his race in the post-race cool-down room with Perez, Vestappen referred to the 2022 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where Perez had lost out to Verstappen in a very similar scenario, as he accepted the luck of the draw had gone against him on this occasion. These kinds of things we'll analyse anyway, if it was the right call or not, but it was definitely unlucky. Red Bull definitely showed off their stunning speed in Baku, but that doesn't mean they were flawless, and it'll be interesting to see how the gaps at the top change as the upgrade season approaches. For the time being, we're looking forward to the race in Miami this weekend, with the bombshell news that it will feature real water in the still fake marina. But hey, they're doing their best. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications when we upload new content. Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Is Red Bull truly unstoppable this season, or have they shown some cracks at Azerbaijan? Was Verstappen's strategy decisive for Perez's victory, or did the Mexican have the pace to battle the Dutchman in earnest? We'll see you next time.